Hello Android developers, my name is Mohsen and I'm back with the third part of learning Jetpack Compose together. As a recap, I want to remind you that we work on Rick and Morty sample application, and at the first part we managed to add dependencies for the Jetpack Compose to the project. We managed to make the Hello World UI works, and then we start with one of the screen, which was the episode list, and implemented it using Jetpack Compose, and at the end managed to add the view model to that compose, so the data loads from the view model. In part 2, we figure out how to use the UI state and what was wrong with it. We managed to make the @sign preview to work, and by removing the parameter from the functions that are annotated with @sign preview, we learned how to do theming and how to apply color to the app, the same as previous styles and themes. And we also managed to make the pull to refresh feature work. At the end, we had some bumpy road to make the load more functionality to work, or also known as pagination part. And in this part, I want to first figure out how to make the detekt to stop complaining about compose functions and magic numbers, and also figure out how to not use the compose internal state and keep using the StateFlow, as the previous view model was using a StateFlow. And after that, add the load more or pagination feature back to this list. And then there are two other screens that we may have time to migrate to Compose, but let's see how it goes. Before I start, please like and share this video if you like it, and also subscribe to this channel to see more of this content. Do not forget that every month I interview one of the Android community active members, and these interviews are also nice to watch and see what the other Android developers do and how they contribute in this community and how they help each other. Yeah, without further ado, let's start. Okay, let's start with detekt and see how we can fix those issues. Let's take a look what was the issues. So we have episode list screen, and as you can see, detekt is complaining that the function name is wrong, and it's correct based on Kotlin name convention. The function name should not start with capital letter, but this is the compose convention and we should keep doing it. So we should first ask detekt to not to complain about these things. And one more thing is the preview. Let me find it. Yeah, so the preview functions also are being complained because we decided to change them to private so no one from outside can use them. But detekt is complaining that there are unused private members, which is also fine for a Kotlin normal class, but this is a compose class, so we know that these preview are being used to show preview of the UI on our design split screen. So second, we have to fix this thing, and also we added some theme, and this theme come with some color which are some integer number, and detekt is complaining that these are kind of magic numbers. Again, in a normal Kotlin file you should not have magic numbers, and at least you have to define some const values that explain where this number is coming from. But here we are talking about colors, and then yeah, it makes sense to have magic numbers. But let's see how we can fix this. Let's take a look into detekt documentation. The naming rule of function naming is the one that is now being somehow complaining about compose functions. What we can do is using this naming rule set, and define exactly this naming function should be excluded for what type of functions. We also have the option to say ignore if there is some annotation. So I already have it, and we will just add it to the code. What we can do here is go to the build.gradle look for the detekt part and add configuration to this file. So we say there is a config file, detekt-config.yaml. It's a YAML file, and we should create this file inside our source folder and tell naming, function naming, and then we have something called ignore annotated, and later here we should say composable. This way we say detect that any function name that is annotated with composable can be ignored from this rule, and we also have to add it to our plugin, because if I go back to this screen, it's still complaining because this is not the Gradle task of detect. This is the plugin that added to the Android Studio. By the way, you can see that video that I explain how to add this detect plugin in my channel. So what we should do is just tell this plugin that there is a config file and it can use it. Okay, nice. Now we can see it start complaining, and even if we run the git the Gradle detect task, then this should not happen. Okay. Now let's go to the, yeah, this one is also solved. Now let's go to the preview one. It looks like something is wrong because preview is also not complaining. Let me run the task and see what's wrong. Wait. This should not be inside the source folder, it should be inside the app folder. And yeah, let me run this again, and yeah, so again we can take another look. So this is solved, but we still have the preview private not used issue, and we have to fix this one too. Let's go back to our detect config and add one more thing. So this rule is inside style private, yeah, unused private member, and we are going to use the allowed name configuration to do this, because the annotation one does not exist for this one. So we use the style rule set and then use this and then ask detect to ignore. So let's take a look. Style, the name is unused private member. I will just copy to avoid typo. I was wondering maybe we can do this, but as far as I know this is not possible, but we can double check. So you can see it says there is no configuration property for ignore annotation. You can see for every rule there are some configuration options that can be used, and if it's not here, then you cannot do this. What we are going to do is use the allowed names and keep the default value and add our preview one at the end. So let's see. We say allowed names is going to be we will copy this value. And then at the end, we add the preview one. So we are going to do some rejects. So preview, and then after that, any word. Yeah. Let's see. Let's maybe build again and take a look into episode list. Yeah. You can see the issue is gone, and if I run the detect task, it also doesn't complain about this issue anymore. What are left at the moment? Maybe let me just explain what happened here. So we said that the unused private member rule, which is inside the rule setup style, should allow names that are like this. So the first part was from the default value of the detect that we don't want to change. And here we said any function, any private member that starts with private and any word at the end should be allowed, and this rule should not be applied to it. So things like this: preview, dark, whatever, preview, light, whatever. And yeah, you can see this issue is gone. Now we can go to the magic numbers inside theme. The issue with color magic number is that if we take a look into documentation, this rule says that report usage of magic number in the code and prefer defining constants with clear name description and describing what that number means in that context. So it means if this file was a normal Kotlin file, we should not have some random number in the middle of the code, and if there is a number being used or magic number being used, we should define a const value and explicitly explain what this number means in that context. But in our theme and color, this number is just defining a color for us, and it has nothing to do with this rule, and we are not breaking any rules, any detect rules. What we can do here is just adding some suppress to every one of these colors, or a better solution from my perspective is moving them into a separate file and then suppress magic numbers inside that file. What I'm going to do is create a new Kotlin class file and going to name it Rick and Morty colors, and then paste the colors here. Cool, it's complaining because there's no new line at the end. That's fine. Now we should also get rid of the private part, and at the very top we should say @ file and suppress, and we can just copy the rule from here, magic number. As you can see, these numbers are not magical anymore, and detect is not complaining about them. And we can also see that here everything works fine. We have one extra import that can be cleaned up, and that's it. We solved all the detect issues and detect rules that was broken because of Compose by adding this configuration, and then also by adding the colors and suppressing magic numbers on this file only. So this doesn't cause any false positive suppression of magic numbers in any other files like theme. Cool, so we have progress here. Let's take a look again to the list. So we did this one and finally figured out what was the detect issue and how to resolve it. Another issue, if you remember, was that in my view model I used to have a StateFlow, but then because of Compose I replaced it with a state, and a state is something inside the Compose package which I prefer not to use personally, because we are doing Kotlin and it would be nicer to use some native Kotlin solution like a StateFlow. I also take a look into the documentations and some tutorials and learn that we can convert the StateFlow to state. What we have to do at this place is change this to mutable state flow as it was before, and then fix the constructor, and here we change it back to StateFlow, and everything is solved here. Maybe just a bit cleanup, and UI state has been used inside our episode list screen, and what we can do here is just to say collect as a state. And now we have a state here and also a state flow inside our code, which is nice. And this is exactly what I was looking for, to have some state flow inside my view model and whatever compose required as a state here. Maybe we can also run the app and make sure everything works as it should, and then proceed. Yeah, you can see the list is still working. So for the next part, we are going to get rid of this custom solution that I was trying to introduce and use the Compose Pagination. So 2 is done, 3 to go. Regarding Pagination in Compose, I found that I was a bit wrong trying to maybe reinvent the wheel. So I read some articles about Jetpack Compose Pagination and also read the documentation from the Compose itself, and found it very easy to use to use this paging Compose instead of doing my own custom solution. So what we should do is to add this dependency to our project, and later on do more changes until we achieve the pagination. So maybe let me close this emulator and go to the end of here and add this dependency here, paging, and sync the project. And meanwhile, take a look into this nice article. I will also leave the link into the video description so you can also read and reuse this. The way it works is defining some paging source for every data. So here we have in our app we have episode, so we are going to have a class called episode source and maybe episode list source, and then some paging source based on that. The first data type is the paging key, whatever it could be. For us is also some integer, and for the second type we have the view of episode. But yeah, let's maybe start implementation. What we have to do is to define a class called episode list source, and this class is going to implement paging source, which we already added. The first parameter type is integer and second one is view episode item. So let me implement the missing members. So this paging source has two functions. One is get refresh key and one is the load. What we care at the moment is the load one, and as you can see, the load gets some parameter and returns some load result. And load result can be success or error. But let's maybe take a look into this article again. I will copy the same for get refresh key. And for the load, as you can see, it tries to define the page, it tries to load the list and then return the list as a result of load result page and put the data inside with the previous key and next key. And in case of any other exception, it just says load results, error, and then some exception. But yeah, let's do it from top to bottom. I will keep copy pasting until we get something to work. Okay, there is a variable called next page. It can be null for the very first page. So if it's null, then we will replace it with 1. Our pages also start from 1. And then we have some user list. We should add the repository here. Repository. We already have a repository and we can use it to get episodes. And this guy, the same as this sample file, has a page, and we can pass next page. Okay, and then we get here episode result, because it returns a page query result, and page query result can be successful, end of list, or error. For the moment, I care about success, and the other cases I will just have them as error for this page. Here we should say when this result was, maybe I can add branches. I care about successful at the moment, so I would say when it was successful, then we create this loading result page. For this one, I have to say, yeah, exactly. I also have data inside, which is the result of this get episode. And then we should have to say what's the previous page and next page keys. So the previous page, if the current page is 1, is null because there's no previous page. But if it is the other page, like 2 or 3, it should be 1 less than that page. So -1 is what we are looking for. And it also did some magic here. So it tries to say if this list is empty, then there is no next page. So this is the last page, and that's it. And some else here that says user list page +1. I don't have this, so what I'm going to do is say next page +1. So yeah, as you can see, if this is the first page, then there is no previous page, so we will set null. If it's not, we will set -1 of current page. And then the next page, if the list is empty, then it's the end of the list, so we will say then there is no next page, and else then we will say current page +1 would be the next key. We also have 2 other cases which I prefer to at the moment just wrap them together and say else and do this. I will define just some exception and say, I don't know, end of the list. I'm going to handle this maybe properly by defining some exceptions for every cases, but at the moment I just want to see how the success works. And what we are missing in the end is some return here. Let's see what's the error. Yes, that's correct. So this guy returns some model episode because this is this repository is implemented in the domain layer. And what we have to do is also do some mapping. So we should say map to, what do we have to? Let me see. Inside our view model, Episodes. Yeah, we have this to view episode items and to view episode item, which is a mapper. That's fine. And yeah, okay, what I have to do is just to say map it's the to episode item. Now I remembered, we also have a click here which is being used to handle the click on the episode. I think we should get rid of this and do the click handling on Compose. So yeah, let's for the moment remove this and just keep the data part. Also this one. And yeah, lots of changes that should be covered. Cool, let's go back here, and then we don't need this anymore, and this should be okay. One thing that the IDE is suggesting is to move this file to the when, and yeah, I guess that's it. We also can improve this lambda to reference to looks like this. This is nicer to read. Okay, now we have episode list source, and let's see what should we do next with this source. Inside view model, it is defining a variable, and let's see, let me just copy and reuse it. So there is something called user, which for us is episodes, and this episode is a flow of paging data. Let's import it. And this should be view episode item, and it says it's a pager. I guess I have to make sure, but I guess our pages are 20 items inside, so let me just double check. Yeah, as you can see, it says you will receive 20 items per page. So 20 is the number here, and we should go back here and set it as 20. And yeah, here we should also use list source. But since it needs some repository, it would be nice if we just inject it. So I will just rename it to episode list source and add it as a parameter. I also removed the repository here because this view model doesn't need repository anymore, because this list source is also taking care of that part. So this should be it. And it also has some cached in, which for the moment we just keep it as is, and maybe we can also get rid of this part because it's not valid anymore. But yeah, we are also doing more here, like showing the loading and things like that, which we should also figure out how to do it. I will just comment this part and also get rid of this map. We don't need it anymore. And let's see, some cleanup here. And yeah, that is more or less it for here. We also should remove episodes from this UI state. I don't know, maybe at some point I just set the value based on this paging, but let's just limit the changes and see how it goes. Let me clean up a bit, and we go to the view model and the screen. Yeah, inside the screen, we used to have this here, but this is not here anymore. And what we have to do is, yeah, here. Yeah, we should say that episodes, but the data type is different. Let me change the data type of this parameter and go a bit deeper and see what's happening here. So here we have a flow of paging data, and yeah, what we have to do here, maybe let's take a look into this article again. So it has a variable like this. It is going to be called episode list items, and it's a lazy paging item. It's a view episode item, and then we say episodes that collect as lazy paging items. And yeah, it also has a lazy column. I think we can also get rid of this state. And then items, the list item, and then we get the item. Try to generate the UI. Okay, I will do the same. So episode list item, doesn't like this. This could be some import error again, but let me see. This one we should use. Okay. Again, it was some import issue, and now it is solved. What else do we have here? So this is a nullable value. What we should say is to say something like episode.let and move this inside. I guess this is what's happening here too. And then some onclick, and yeah, maybe we can also define onclick here instead of inside, yeah, this thing. So this onclick is just some method onclick is just some function which returns nothing, and then I will get rid of this. Let's go back here, and here we say when it's clicked. Okay, we should pass this on episode click, so I will define on episode click as a function that maybe gets an int and unit, and we can say on episode click no here I say on episode click and pass in episode that what do we have here? We should add ID to this. Let me make sure where is the mapping. So this is the map. We get the model. Model has some ID. Yeah, we should also define some ID to use. Yes, and then for the mapping, we would say ID equal ID, and some cleanup here, and ID. Then yeah, that's it. So now we also have the click, and we can also get rid of this red text which we added previously, and no load more anymore. What else do we have here? There's no load more anymore, and here, yeah, we can get rid of this, and there's no on click anymore. There is some ID. Can say 1, and then ID 2 for the preview, and let's delete this one. Let's see what else. And here there's no load more episode. I can also, yeah, I should also delete this. And yeah, view model doesn't take care of pages anymore. And yeah, I hope this also trigger inside the compose loading the paging source, and also this one. Interesting, yeah. And we should get rid of this as a leftover, and also this one. Status provider. Yeah, we used to use it to understand if the internet connection is there or not, but now it's not there anymore. That's also something to figure out, because this episode list source should take care of different exceptions that might happen. So all those logic kind of move to this source thing, and yeah, at the first glance it's a bit awkward and it's a bit hard to grasp, but let's see how it goes at the end. So let's review. We have a episode list source which gets the repository, and implements some paging source which has integer as the paging key, and it promised that it will return some view episode item. We have this one which I am still not 100% sure what it does, but most recently accessed index in the list, including placeholder now if no access in the paging which has been. It looks like it just keeps some state, but I will keep it as is and maybe read more later. What we care at the moment is this load method, which determine what's the next page that should be loaded. It asks repository to load the page. If the result is successful, it loads the data, map it to what we need for the UI, and load into the data, and we somehow calculate the previous key and next key based on current key. And There are some error exception handling that should be happened, but for the moment I just skipped it. And if we go back to the previous page, we pass this episode directly to this list screen. Yeah, our pull to refresh is also broken, and this is going to be interesting because I have no idea how to make it work at this point. But again, we will commit and proceed. And what is this? Yeah, we don't have any load more, I guess. Let me check. Then instead we have an episode click, which we should have it in our view model. We had it somewhere here, I guess. Let me find this usage. Yeah, here. I will define a method for this. This guy used to have the whole episode and then send the character IDs to the next screen to load. So what we can do is to add the character IDs to that data model, but again, I do not like this. But yeah, for the moment, let's just proceed somehow and say we are going to have a function that is called on episode selected, and this is going to be like this. I would say let's take a look into the data type of this character IDs. It's a list of integer, and we will use the same here. Character IDs, and then get rid of this part, and we have to improve this on our implementation. So let's go back to view episode item. Here we should say character IDs, which is a list of int, and our mapper should also take care of this bit. Let me find it. So character IDs. What else do we have here? And our screen should say on episode selected, and here we should say we will send you a list of a list of integer, and it will be character IDs. Yeah, again, I have to fix this list of 1 and 2. Character IDs, list of, I don't know, 1 and 3. And then we have an episode click, and here we just pass character IDs, and what do we have here? Our preview is broken. For the moment, I will just comment it. I just want to see how it runs, and if we get it to do the job that we want. and then step by step we go back and fix everything as it should be. We also have row here. There's no click. And some character IDs. List of 1 and 2, and at least this one is not broken. What else? Yeah, it needs some method input, which I just keep it empty and build and refresh. Yeah, some typo here. It's gone now. Okay, let's maybe run the app and see if pagination works. Nice, first crash. Let's see what is broken. Yeah, we forgot to add this to our dependency injector. So maybe let's go back and find our view model and add this to the same module. So I guess, yeah, this is going to be a single. And yeah, I will define it like this, and this should work out of the box. Yeah, sometimes coin import doesn't work properly, so you have to go and manually add this. Okay, let's run again and see if it works. Yes, we have the first page. Let's maybe move down and see. Yeah, we have up to season 5, which I guess this API has only 5 seasons. And yeah, at least it looks like pagination is working. We can also check the profiler to see if we get proper API calls. So let's maybe run the app and yeah, take a look into the network API calls. Yeah, you can see we had page 3 and then page 4, and yeah, page 4 was empty, so 3 pages loaded. I'm not sure why it's broken here, but this is the new Android Studio network inspector. But beside that, it looks fine. Maybe we can run again and double check. Page 3 and page 4 are being executed. I don't know why we missed the page 1 and page 2 in this API call, but anyway, it looks okay. Maybe what I should do next is find a way to make things that I broke work again, like checking for the network connection. The pull to refresh is now broken because we should find a way to ask this source to load the data from scratch from page 1. And yeah, some also error handling should happen inside our list source here that we kind of ignored. And I prefer to push this part to the next episode. So thanks for watching, thanks for following up, again, I'm not a Compose expert. I'm also learning by you step by step by looking into documentation, reading some articles, and also share that articles with you. So thanks for following, and yeah, let's see in the next part if I can fix these two or multiple issues that we found. Maybe I can also update our list. So I was expecting to finish in this part everything, but it looks like we need more time to learn more. I will create part 4. That's it. I will save this file and see you on part 4 of learning Jetpack Compose together. Thanks for following me, and if you like this video, please like and share with your colleagues and other Android developers, and do not forget to subscribe to this channel if you like this type of contents, and see you on the next part and next videos. Bye.